On December 4th, something quietly significant happened in Riga. 3 presidents met in a castle. Alar Karas of Estonia, Edgars Rinkevici of Latvia, and Gitanas Nausėda of Lithuania. Suits, handshakes, the usual formalities. But behind closed doors, they were planning a bold move. They decided to tear up the railroad tracks connecting their countries to Russia and Belarus. Literally. Heavy machinery, official decrees, steel rails removed. And this is more than just infrastructure. It's a strategic shift that changes the balance in Europe. Think about Kaliningrad, that small piece of Russia, wedged between Poland and Lithuania. It's home to the Baltic fleet and a key military hub. Right now, it relies heavily on rail to bring in supplies from Russia, remove those tracks, and Kaliningrad becomes an island. Everything, food, fuel, military, supplies must be shipped by sea or flown in. Costs skyrocket, supply lines are exposed, and the people there feel isolated. Isolation creates pressure. Pressure weakens control. Now let's look at Belarus. The country depends on rail to export millions of tons of potash, petroleum, and other goods. Most of it goes through Lithuania and Latvia to reach Baltic ports. If the tracks are gone, exports stall. Trucks can't carry that volume. Russian ports are congested. Rerouting adds distance, time, and cost. Factories slow down or shut. Workers go unpaid. The economic pressure is immense. The Baltics aren't acting randomly. They've faced hybrid attacks for years. Migrant crises, cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns. Russia and Belarus have been testing their defenses. Now, the Baltics are going on offense. And they're doing it in a way that can't be undone. Tear up the rails, and the connection is gone permanently. But this isn't just about cutting old tracks. They're building something new, Rail Baltica. A high-speed, double-track, fully electrified line running from Tallinn through Riga and Vilnius all the way to Warsaw. The old tracks ran east-west toward Moscow. Rail Baltica runs north-south into Europe. NATO can move troops and equipment from Germany or Poland to Estonia in hours. No wheel changes, no delays. Meanwhile, Russia's rail network, once a strength, becomes a vulnerability. Inside Russia, the impact is real. Russian Railways, a major employer, loses revenue, idle trains, unemployed workers, budget pressure. And the hope for future trade with Europe fades because the rails won't exist. This is coordinated. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are planning to act together. One country alone wouldn't have the effect. Together, it becomes irreversible. Poland and the European Union support the move. This is Europe's long-term defense strategy in action. The psychological impact is also huge. Imagine living in Kaliningrad, suddenly cut off from the mainland, or being in Belarus, watching your economy collapse because the lifeline to the sea is gone. Russia is facing not just logistical problems, but a strategic and psychological squeeze. Reports suggest that the legal process could be finalized by early 2026, but change is already underway. Sabotage operations in Russia, disruptions along the rail network show how vulnerable these connections are. The Baltics are about to do, legally and officially, what has been happening covertly, sever Russia's path to Europe. Step back and look at the bigger picture. Rail connections that once carried trade, troops, and influence from Moscow to the Baltic ports are disappearing. The economic integration that survived political tensions is being deliberately cut. The physical remnants of past control, centuries of empire, decades of Soviet rule are being removed, piece by piece. This is simple, but profound. Remove the tracks, and you remove the possibility of return. Russia's path to Europe, the one built over centuries of empire, maintained through Soviet control, tolerated after independence, is closing. The train isn't just leaving the station. The tracks themselves are disappearing behind it. Europe is building the future while physically burying the past. 3 small countries, a few hundred kilometers of steel rails, and a decision that will reshape the strategic map for generations. Once those tracks are gone, they're gone for good. and the world will notice. Step back for a moment and imagine the scale of what's happening. These railways are more than steel and sleepers. They are lifelines for trade, for movement, for influence. And now, the Baltics are cutting them at the source. Every train that once carried goods or military equipment from Russia into Europe will simply stop at the border. There is no workaround. The wheels don't match. The path doesn't exist. Kaliningrad, once reliably connected, becomes isolated in an instant. Russia would have to rely entirely on ships and planes to move people, fuel, or military equipment. That's not just expensive, it's risky. NATO dominates the surrounding seas. Coastal missile systems can strike at any approaching vessel. Even routine supply runs now carry a strategic risk. The simple act of removing a few hundred kilometers of rail has turned a secure Russian enclave into a potential trap. For Belarus, the stakes are equally high. Its economy is highly dependent on moving massive volumes of fertilizer, oil products, and other exports to global markets. Take away the rails to the Baltic ports, and entire industries face paralysis. Potash piles up at borders. Trucks cannot handle the load. Shipping through Russian ports is slow, crowded, and costly. Factories stall. Jobs vanish. Families feel the pressure. This isn't abstract. It's a very real economic squeeze that can destabilize the regime. And this isn't revenge, it's strategy. The Baltics are responding to years of pressure. Hybrid attacks, disinformation, cyber strikes, migrant crises, all designed to test boundaries and spread uncertainty. Now, the Baltics are taking the initiative. They're not reacting, they're shaping the future. By removing the rails, they're removing the ability of Russia and Belarus to project influence into Europe permanently. The train is leaving. And this time, the tracks themselves are disappearing behind it. What once was a clear path for Russian influence, centuries of empire, decades of Soviet control is now gone permanently. The Baltics are showing that power isn't just about armies or weapons. It's about decisions, logistics, and infrastructure. It's about shaping the future by controlling the physical space around you. Europe's map is changing quietly, methodically, irreversibly. Kaliningrad faces isolation. Belarus faces economic pressure. Russia faces strategic and psychological limits it hasn't felt in decades. And through it all, three small nations are making a statement that will echo for generations. The past is being removed piece by piece. The future is being built one rail at a time. And for Russia, the realization is stark. The tracks that once carried their ambitions to Europe are disappearing. The train has left the station, and this time there's no turning back.